I got a question for you before we start.
To whom?
To Wes.
Oh, okay.
Who the fuck is Tom Taylor?
I don't fucking know. Dude, the clothes that they sell in this country for big people are just like the rejects from back home.
For big people.
So, like,
It's not like the average American.
So I have to buy all my clothes from, like, they call it like XL or American Resaler or something like that. And
Yeah.
this fucking shirt was like one of the 5 shirts that fit me in the entire city. So I don't know who Tom Taylor is, but I'm so fucking grateful for him.
I honestly expected this would be the part where Lenny would bring up the, you know how like sports championships, they like pre-make the hats and the shirts, and how they like send the losing team to like, like third party,
Third
Jesus
world.
Christ, third
Yeah.
world countries, and so that's like, oh, who lost this year?
Yeah, no, those get sent to like Somalia and like the Middle East.
Yeah, yeah. There may or may not be some New England Patriots shirts and hats from over the years.
Good riddance. I'm so glad Tom Brady finally fucking retired.
I am too. I wish I wish he would have gone the way of John Elway and just the last one that he won with the Pats, like that would have been it. But
He should have retired. I mean, he did get that one in Tampa, so I think that should have been his last one for sure.
no, that should have been his last one. Yeah, it should have been like the fuck you to like Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, and then been done.
Yeah.
That would have been the exclamation point. But whatever,
He should have retired like when Gronk actually finally retired.
Yeah.
Gronk.
Oh well, a story for another day. I was gonna say something before we got started. Oh, it doesn't matter. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. It doesn't sound like me, but it is me. And it is this, the Life Midwest podcast. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got, I'm your host, Kevin Palmer. We got our Thai correspondent, Wes Shirley, in the...
Hi, it's me. This does sound like me, and it is me.
And someone else who sounds like themselves this week. Seattle's best, but I don't mean the coffee, Lenny Wells.
You have reached the life double for Lenny Wells. Please leave a message after the beep, and he might get back to you.
Join a Washington musician, a communications major, and an Army veteran, all originally from the Midwest, as we talk about life's endeavors that are both current and events. The reason why I don't sound like myself is I was dying of flu or something, not COVID, but flu or something over the past weekend. And I'm on the tail end of it, and I just sound just fucking phenomenal. I'm just ready to host a podcast episode. But no, what I wanted to talk about this week was actually kind of something I kind of thought about like spur of the moment with it being like graduating season. And that is, well, I want to start with this thought actually. So like cut what I just said, but like I want to start with this thought that I had. You ever go to a store and you're like talking to like, and it's always a white person. I don't know why, but it's always a fucking white person. And
I like
you're
where
like,
this is going.
and you're like, you know, they're ringing up your shit or whatever, and they're like, a busy day today. And like, yep. I'm like, well, it makes the time go by fast, right?
Okay.
You've heard that phrase before. I decided that I fucking hate that phrase.
Okay.
So the reason why I hate that phrase is because you are on this earth You are a speck of fucking dust and cells that is somehow alive and cognizant of your existence. And you want that time to go by faster so you can die sooner?
When I'm at work, I do.
It's just I understand, like, contextually I understand the whole, like, it does make sense. It makes the time go by faster. But I guess the crux of what I was getting at is if you really if you really want the time to go by faster, you need to find something to do differently with your life. Because and I don't want to make it about the episode this week, but it leads into what I want to talk about. And it's just, we're only here once. I know we talk about, people say YOLO this and whatever, but it's just, and I don't want to go back to like the pre-G Kevin episode with like you two just kind of going like, what he said, but like, I don't know. It really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, one old white bitch said it earlier this week, and I was like, you know what grinds my gears, Lobish? And I've just been pissed about it ever since. So I just wanted to air that out. No, what recently occurred was there was graduation. Oh, go ahead, Lenny.
I just need you to wind that into how this relates to graduation, because I'm so lost right now.
So the other week, my future brother-in-law graduated, and we went to his commencement, and I think what I realized was that we spend a lot of time talking about, like, in those graduation speeches, a lot of like, thank you to everyone who showed up today. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. But like, at the crux of it all, it's about following your fucking dreams, right? It's about like doing what you want to do. And I feel like along the way we get lost from that. We're just like, oh, that was a nice speech. And then we just kind of go on and like fuck off and live our lives. And don't really think about it again. But I want to take this week to kind of revisit that. I want to revisit those people who want to make time go fast. I want to revisit those people who say, go forward with your gifts and do something wonderful. And talk about that. And I don't want to get like super existentially about it or overly, like, oh, like, we're suffering in a dying pit. But I also think that there's just a conversation to be had around like graduation, and like maybe we have some fond memories around it too without getting super existential. So any thoughts, guys? Initial thoughts? We can cut this if you want.
You get off your ass and you find that fucking dog. I don't know. That's for some reason Billy Madison popped into my head.
Shampoo is better. I go on first and clean the hair.
No,
Conditioner is better. I go on the hair and make it silky and smooth.
That's our show, everybody. When I was sitting there during the commencement speech, though, in the valedictorian and the salutatorian spoke, it felt so fucking dry. And maybe we're in a different time. I don't know. Maybe it was reviewed and edited by outside forces. I don't know how it works. I've never written a speech for my school. I was, maybe Lenny could talk about that a little bit today. I know one particular conversation he had with the assistant principal. So, at the time. So, but it actually made me think of Lenny specifically because Lenny's in my graduating class, for those who don't know. And Lenny gave a speech, and I want him to tell this story himself. But he gave a speech, and I remembered. I don't remember. I'll be honest with you, Lenny. I don't remember what you talked about. I don't remember what you said, but I fucking remember how it made me feel. And our valedictorian and our salutatorian, I don't remember those speeches at all. They had zero impact on me. And so like sitting in that graduation commencement, like sitting in that, like in the Huntington Center in Toledo, and like listening to those speeches and just thinking about you and your speech and the way that it like made so many people feel. Can you tell that story just so everyone's not lost in my babbling?
Yeah, no, that's fair. So to start it off, like, I don't know how a lot of other places do it, but the way our school did it for our graduating year, um, and again, I don't have any other frame of reference because I never went to another commencement ceremony before or after. Actually, I take that back. I went to my brother's commencement, but I don't really remember it. Um, anyways, so they, the salutatorian and valedictorian, those were like givens, right? But then they opened it up to anybody else in the graduating class if they wanted to like do a speech, and that had to go. It had to go through Miss Gladio, who was the art teacher, but she was also like in charge of like graduation stuff, like more generally. She was like she did a lot of the event planning for like the school, like prom. And anyways, that's not the point. But so like you had to submit a speech, and then like they reviewed it, and then like they narrowed that down to a group of people, and then you had to present your speech to them, and then they like narrowed it down to like the two from there. And I remember the first time I went in and like gave like the first shot at it, like I was stumbling over my words and I was very nervous, and they're like, it's okay, just do it again. So took a deep breath, steadied myself, and I went through and gave my speech. And I could tell immediately that I was probably gonna be one of the people that get it, like not to like jerk myself off, but like just the reaction from the teachers was like not what I was expecting. I was expecting like, oh, okay. But like just the way they like the expressions on their faces and the way they kind of like were like whispering to each other, I was like, oh yeah, I got this in the bag. So I remember like I talked like part of it. So we get there and it's like the day of, and I think I've told the story more than once, but the assistant principal, who's shall remain a nameless sleazebag, pulled me aside and was like, don't do anything funny, we'll ruin your life, this, that, and the other. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude. So I got up and it was much less intimidating, funny enough, being like in front of like all like our class and like their parents and the band, just everybody that was there. It was much less intimidating than actually like reading it the first go in front of like the selection committee essentially. But I remember I talked about just looking back on like like how much we'd gone through, and theorizing about like how like some people were gonna like go right into the workforce, or some people were gonna go to college, join the military, start families, that kind of thing. And I don't know, it was I just remember that it felt like I wanted to give like our class something to like maintain like a positive trajectory, it was more like a little bit hopeful of the for the future, I guess. And I think like everybody kind of was trying to do that in some capacity. I don't remember our valedictorian speech. I just remember it being like super boring. And then our salutatorian, and I don't mean this, I don't mean this in a way that's like trying to make fun of this person, but it was really bad because like they kept crying the whole way through. Like it was just like, I understand it was emotional for them and it was emotional for all of us, but like the only thing I could think in my head was you got to keep it together, right?
Makes sense. You're giving a speech, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because like it's easier for me to be emotionally detached. Like Brittany thinks I'm a sociopath. So maybe that just had something to do with it for me personally. But And then the other person who gave, like one of the select speeches, because it was myself and one other person that were chosen for the select. I remember their speech was like really like grounded like in the past about like the history of like the school, which who cares? On it, like that's like the entire like her entire speech. I was like, this doesn't mean anything to us. It's not like it's not about us really, and that's what it should be about, right?
Yeah.
So, um, I don't know. I know that my speech was very tonally different from everybody else's. And again, I don't have it in front of me, and maybe my parents can scrounge up a recording time for this edit. But I just remember, you know, I felt like my speech was a little bit more hopeful, maybe. And like I said, trying to maintain that positive trajectory as like we left the safety of school and went off into whatever you define as the real world.
Yeah, because if you think about it, when you graduate high school, that's when life really begins. That's like that's when your life as an adult is like starting to form, right? And your relationships with other people um will either form or fail at this point, like as you like evolve and go through your 20s. And it's just like I don't know, there were so many things that like made me think of people who go and like, oh, they're going to college for this, or oh, they're going to go to school for this, or they're going to enter the workforce and hope to attain this, or they're going to go in the military. And it's just we talk about not losing sight of who we are, but I feel like we make these choices that drag ourselves away from who we really are sometimes, and we lose sight of that. And I may be wrong, I may be totally off my rocker here, and that's what you guys are here for if I am. But I think that it's important to kind of take that time and, as weird as it sounds, think back to your own graduation and think back to the way that you felt when you first graduated. Like, oh, I'm finally done, or oh, this chapter of my life is closed. Some people are happy to be done with high school, right? Like, um, Wes, I know you were at a really interesting point in your life. Do you want to talk about like what your graduation felt like, or what do you remember from your graduation?
Um, sure. My graduation was a bit of a mess for me. In that, this was a point in my life where I was just like fighting everyone, including myself. And like, I got into a bad fight with my mother that day. And like, she's my main point of family. Like, I have a brother, but I don't like have a father or sisters or cousins or really anyone else. So like, I called up a friend to take me to graduation because I'm like, fuck, I don't belong here. I don't even know how I graduated. But I guess I should probably go to the ceremony. And my mom ended up being there, and so did my brother and everyone else. But like, we were in just a really big fight that day, so I traveled there on my own. I was in a piss poor mood the entire ceremony. I was so bored and thought all the speeches sucked, and that's probably not reality. That's just because of how I was that day. Um, and then eventually things cooled down that day. I was Everything was in such a haze at that point in my life. I was just an angry little pile of crap, and I don't know. I didn't go to like any graduation parties. I just stayed at home and played World of Warcraft and like secluded myself from the rest of the world. I reclused. Um, yeah, not a good point in my life. I don't really have much else to add to that. I'm surprised I graduated. Actually, I know why I graduated. The teachers didn't want to see me as a fifth year senior. I got so many pity grades that year. That year I was literally in the process of getting expelled for truancy. And luckily, like, we have a senior skip day or whatever. And I was told by this former vice principal, if I come on senior skip day and don't miss a single day of school for the next like 3 weeks or whatever, he'll let me walk. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I basically didn't deserve to graduate high school, but I did. And I just felt weird the whole time. I felt like I didn't belong there and I was just in a bad mood. So, not anything to add to this situation, but life has obviously changed since then. And I did end up graduating college. I did not go to the graduation because I think they're stupid. Um, well, also because COVID. It was fucking COVID. I'm not going to go sit in an auditorium with like hundreds of people I don't know so I can get COVID and potentially die. Like, not worth my time.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel like? Well, let me. I have two questions. Why do you feel like you didn't belong there?
I think realistically I didn't. The fact that I know for a fact I got a pity grade in math. I was in algebra 1 my senior year because I failed it 3 years in a row. And the teacher was the same teacher I would draw like dicks on the smartboard while they were giving grades to like other students. And I think at one point I probably made him cry. Like it was to the point where like he's like, if I see you back another year, I'm probably gonna quit my job. So he gave me the D minus I needed to graduate, along with other credits I completely missed. If you look at my high school transcript, I have a GPA average of like 0.7, which is pitiful. That's like D's across the board, but lower.
So you feel like you didn't belong there because you look back and you were like, I didn't do the work. Why am I here?
I didn't really care so much about the work. Like I passed all the tests I needed to pass. I passed the
Right.
Ohio graduation test that like only a couple of our years had to do. With flying colors. Like I knew I was intelligent enough to hold or knowledgeable rather, enough to hold a diploma that said, I'm smart, I did the high school. And like, I don't know, it was more of just the sorrow that I was feeling of me realizing how dumb I've been all through high school. I could have done so much more. I could have been so much more. And I was just kicking myself in the ass the whole time. Maybe a little too much. And I was taking it out on others, which proliferated the whole feeling of just feeling bad about everything and making an ass out of myself in the process. Getting into a fight with my mother the day of graduation and storming off and calling a friend to take me wasn't like a good look. Or not that anyone knows about that until now. But like it's not a good look for myself looking in. It's just everything was petty and stupid that I did.
Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, I think what's interesting is you are someone who I don't think has lost sight of the things that are normally talked about at graduation, which I almost find kind of ironic because you talked about your graduation day and how you didn't want to be there and you didn't feel like whatever. And the things that are normally talked about graduation and following your dreams and your passions and like the things that you're currently doing in your life right now, like you've always wanted to do a project with your best friend, me,
Mm.
and you're doing that now. You have a fucking restaurant that you're starting. That I can't wait to do an episode and talk about whenever you're ready for that. You literally live across the world. It is you who I'm addressing when I say across the country and around the world. Just kidding. We have more listeners than just one, but you're one of the listeners. So I think you're doing some amazing things, and I think that I also think of like the people from our graduating classes who, and it's no shame on them, but it's just like they're working a 9 to 5 that they hate, and they are trapped in a life maybe they didn't see themselves living. And whether that's because they lost sight of what was talked about at graduation or not, I'm not saying like that's what happened and this is what happened, but I don't know, like I just wanted to people to be able to look back and think about, what that day was like for them. And it's just I think, for you, Wes, particularly, I think you weren't stimulated in school. Like that's what my therapist told me, like looking back with my ADHD and like high school and like me struggling in high school but doing excellent in college. Like you weren't being taught anything that was like interesting to you. You know what I mean? Like I know what makes you tick. I know like what you enjoy to talk about and what lights you up like a Christmas tree. And it was none of the subjects that were taught in high school. And but like now, like you've taken that and run with it. And like I don't know, I like you and Ashley talk about food a lot. And I know food is always kind of been there for you. It's always kind of, now that I sit here and think about it, like you did Penna for a little bit. You did a lot of jobs as like a cook or like a chef or whatever. And like you're good at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. Like that's something that like you're good at and it makes you tick. And I think you're another like Lenny's speech and your passions, I think combined are like what made me want to do this episode this week. So I know I'm just kind of babbling and like stroking both of your egos, but any thoughts from you guys?
Thank you for your kind words about me. I'm gonna have a little bit of an ego about me today, I guess.
To be fair, food's always been there for me too. That's why I'm overweight. I don't know. I don't think that like necessarily people lose sight of like things that are talked about at graduation or like lose sight of who they are, because like high school is such like a microcosm of like experience that like
Right?
it's not, I don't think, you know, who you are in high school is truly who you are at your core, because you're not experiencing really anything, you know. um the amount of people that you interact with, even at like, you know, what would be considered like an average size high school like across the country, I think is like twice the size of like what our graduating class was. Like our graduate, like I talked to Brittany about like how big our graduating class was, and it's like a third the size of her graduating class.
Mm.
So like even like especially like, you know, Rossford for example, like it's such a small little cross section, and it's just tip, you know, I don't think that people lose sight of who they are and have to, you know, go back to you know, their graduation to rediscover that. You know, if anything, I think graduation opens you up to become who you're going to be, because now you're going out and experiencing the world, right? You know, whether it be like Wes and I, who have been around the world and, you know, have experienced different cultures, or and, you know, and live outside of that what used to, you know, was our normal for so long, or even someone who just moves, you know, 2 towns over, right? You know, you're experiencing you know, it's like, for example, you, Kevin, like you're the culture shift that you've had isn't been like as severe as like Wes and I, but it's still somewhat of a culture shift, right? Because I mean, like, you know, I'll say like fuck Perrysburg, but like they're as like are not rivals when we were in high school, but like the culture of like Perrysburg or the culture of Maumee are like, you know, they're vastly different things compared to Rossford, especially just being more affluent. So, anyways, that's just a long-winded way to say that like I think much like the discussion you and I were having prior to Wes joining the recording, it's less of like an endpoint as more it is a beginning.
No, that's what I'm saying. At least that's what I was trying to say is like it's the beginning of the rest of your life.
No, like 100, yeah, 100%. But I don't think I don't think that a lot of times that like people see it that way though. Like sure, like it gets like some lip service a lot, but like a lot of people just see it as like I'm finally done with like mandatory schooling. You know?
Mm.
I think that's what most people think about when they think about high school graduation, like, oh, finally I'm done with high school.
Yeah.
So as opposed to like, oh, finally I get to experience a whole bunch of new shit.
Right. And I think people should be focused on like I finally get to experience a whole bunch of new shit.
Yeah, I think so too.
But like in a way to where they're not like forgetting who they are and what they enjoyed as a kid, like that can still like. I'm not saying that everyone who's in their current profession discover what they love before they graduated high school. But I think a lot of people have a formation or have some sort of idea as to who they are, or at least who they think they might be by the time, like who they think they might become by the time they graduate high school. I'm not saying that like everyone should turn out how they think they're going to, because nobody does. Like we make a plan and the universe laughs, right? But I think at the same time, like we talk about like perseverance and not giving up and not settling, and it's like we get to this certain point in our lives and we look back and we're like, fuck, maybe I did settle. Maybe I did do this. Maybe I'm not saying I feel that way, but I'm saying I reflect back and I look at other people who, it's easy to have regrets, and hindsight is 2020. So don't get too lost in what I'm saying here, folks. But I guess what I'm getting at is think back to your graduation on this episode, I guess, if you will. And just try to think of it with the fond memories and positive takeaways from it, and not in like a dark way of like, oh, I should have like appreciated it more, or I should have, like don't do that. But just, I guess what I'm trying to say, folks, and I'm gonna make Lenny fall out of his chair, is be punk about it. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead. Be punk about it. What's being punk about it, Lenny?
Well, I guess that really depends, doesn't it? Depends on what. Just be hopeful. Be hopeful.
Yeah, be hopeful.
I think now's a good time for a break because I want to talk about some other things regarding graduation.
Oh, okay. Because we're like almost like at the end of the show. I wasn't gonna do a break.
Oh,
because I lost track of time.
Okay, well, I think it's interesting that like we're having this conversation because isn't like high school graduation's like such a uniquely like it's like they have it at like it's other places, but like the pomp and circumstance around it is really uniquely American, as far as I'm aware. Like maybe like Canada, it's like similar, but like you talk to people from like other countries, especially, and they're like, it's just like any other day, really. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to address that because like like any of our international listeners are gonna be like, "The fuck are you guys talking about?" You know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Like university graduation is like a much like bigger deal than because like most it's a big deal here in the U.S. but like so much more of like it's the high school graduation is so much more commercialized than like anything else as in regards to schooling. Like the celebrations that are held by universities aren't like really that big of a deal. It's not, you feel like your own individual sense of pride, but like the community doesn't like come together like they do for high school here in the U.S. Whereas I feel like it's a much larger social component in other parts of the world.
I'm gonna need a big graphic here from Wesley Snipes. Fucking end stage capitalism. Am I right, my brothers? Hell yeah, brother. there you got your hell yeah, brother, Wes.
Hell yeah,
that you
brother.
didn't record earlier. Hell yeah, brother.
I don't know. I guess feel free to cut this out if it doesn't make sense, but like, I just thought like it was worth bringing up. If it doesn't fit, then whatever.
If it don't fit, don't force it. That's what I've always been told.
I've always been told if it don't fit, spit on it.
That's what I've been taught too.
Oh my. Y'all are mean.
There's your motivational speech for the week. Maybe that's what somebody should have said at graduation. Maybe that you should have thrown that at the end of your speech there, Lenny. See if you still would have walked after that.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Oh my god, like that cartoon Kane just been like yoink.
Yeah. Wes, you got anything for us before we head out this week?
Nope. Ain't got none.
All right. Folks, I hope this hasn't been too much of a derailment for you. Sometimes I talk in circles and sometimes I struggle to get my point across, but I was just trying to get some feel-good things out there. That's what we're trying to do. Just get some feel-good things out there in the Life Midwest, here at the Life Midwest. The Midwest life, you know.
I got some feel good thing for you.
On that note, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. It's time for the shout-outs. Wesley, what do you got for us this week, man?
Shout out to everyone.
I used your full name. I'm sorry.
It's all Gucci. Shout out to people graduating. It's cool, I guess. I mean, you're moving on from one thing to the next, and stay hopeful. You know, I had a fucking terrible time in high school, but I'm doing okay now. So if you were like me, I know I'm probably talking to the minority here. If you were like me and didn't know what you were doing after high school, we're just glad that you were no longer had to go there and barely graduated, or even if you didn't graduate, the GED is easy as crap. Like, don't. I might be teaching the GED here shortly, and oh my god, is that shit brain dead. So go ahead and get yourself a GED. You can do it, I promise.
Get something.
Yeah, get something, do something. Don't work for some piece of shit who's just using you for your labor. You're better than that. Remain hopeful that in the future life will be Gucci. That's the only shout out I have. I didn't really have anything, so there's y'all consolation prize.
Letty.
I want to shout out y'all for having very different experiences than like myself. Wes, sorry that you weren't able to have a little bit more like of a positive time at that point in your life, but I think you're doing a lot better for yourself than like I think really anybody could have foreseen, yourself included. So I just want you to know that I'm proud of you, bud. And same for you, Kevin. I know that we've mentioned it before, but I know that school was rough for you, and I think that you're doing all right for yourself. So nothing to scoff at. Meanwhile, I am over here getting exploited for my labor. So maybe I should take Wes's advice a little bit more than blowing hot air myself. So shout out to you guys. Yeah, so shout out to I guess the graduates that may or may not hear this. Just be open to new stuff. Your hometown is not the be all end all.
That's why they call it your hometown, not your finished town.
I'm gonna leave that alone. Kevin, go ahead. What are your shout outs?
Thanks, I appreciate that. Hey, I had I did have a rough time in high school. It was very difficult for me, and so I look back at it as would I do it differently? Yes, I think everybody would. When they look back at it and you reconnect with certain people after high school, and you're like, "Hey, I was a dick to you. I'm sorry," because you realize, like Lenny said, life isn't just a fucking high school is a microcosm of life. And it's not just this end all be all of what it is. It's the beginning of the rest of our lives. So I want to shout out to all the graduating classes of 2023, both high school and collegiate. May whatever you have in your hearts take you further. And if you don't have something that you have your sights set on, just focus on just being a better you. And I think I want to go back to what Wes said in earlier episodes where we talked about like educating yourself and pushing yourself further and just wanting to learn more and be more knowledgeable. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to lose in doing that. And you don't lose sight of who you are by learning more. So I want to shout out the boys because, again, all three of us kind of we all went to the same high school, and I think all three of us came out with different experiences. But we also all ended up all right. And so if you're listening right now or you're thinking about, high school, or maybe it's a little bit closer in your rearview mirror than it is for us, Things gonna be chill. Things gonna be Gucci. But you gotta make sure it happens too. So on that note, also want to shout out my beautiful future wife, Ashley, who kind of was also my partial inspiration for the episode, being that it was her brother that I watched graduate and compete in track at the district and regional levels over the last few weeks. That was a lot of fun. So shout out to him. Congrats on his accomplishments this year and his PRs and everything. And then I want to lastly and finally shout out Being Punk. I got nothing else. So, boys, anything else?
In response to if you got something in your heart, let it out, as the great Clayton Bigsby once said, hate, 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 hate.
All about irony here on the show, folks. It is Pride Month. It is June, and June is Pride Month. And when we come back to the show next week, we're going to be talking about Pride Month a little bit, a lot of it. And I'm looking forward to an open discussion of what 3 white males can have. So 3 straight white males can have. But I think it'll be a good one, and I think you guys should tune in for it. So we'll see you guys next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Life Midwest podcast. Don't forget to leave us an email at support@thelifemidwest.com. Check out our website at thelifemidwest.com. You can also reach out to our social media manager, Lenny. Him with the glasses and the headset, but not the other glasses with the headset.
Which white guy wearing white with a headset and glasses?
Who the fuck is Tom Taylor or whatever? Anyway, you can also interact with our social media manager, Lenny, on all major social platforms at The Life Midwest. And then finally, if you'd like to support us financially, because it does cost money to run the show, paypal.me/The Life Midwest. Folks, we're going to get the hell out of here. We'll see you next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Life Midwest podcast. Take care. Call your mom. Tell someone you love them. And have a good one.
Deuces.
Bye. Love you, babes.